When you picture Warren Buffett, what do you see? I bet it's that kindly old man from Omaha, right? Sipping a cherry Coke, looking like everybody's favorite grandfather. He seems harmless. But you have to understand, that smile is a mask. Behind it is a financial predator who has not only survived, but thrived through every single market crash for the last 80 years. So today, we're going to look past the grandpa and see the shark. Let's get into it.
Look, we've all heard the story. His secret is so simple. Just buy good companies and hold them forever. It sounds like a recipe anyone could follow, right? So, here's the question that should keep you up at night. If it's so easy, why do 99% of the people who try to copy him fail miserably? Why don't they get his results? It's because the version of Warren Buffett you've been sold is a fairy tale, and it's a dangerous one that will get your portfolio crushed.
So in this deep dive, we are going to completely dismantle that legend. First, we're going to shatter those popular slogans. You know the ones. Hold forever. Buy cheap. Then we'll challenge everything you think you know about his strategy on risk and technology. From there, we'll uncover the real engine that powers his wealth. And trust me, it's something most people have never even heard of. We'll explore his true superpower, which has nothing to do with picking stocks. And finally, we'll boil it all down into a framework you can actually use.
All right, first up, let's tackle the two biggest slogans that have been sold to you as gospel, the ones you hear repeated over and over again.
You've heard this 1,000 times, right? It's on coffee mugs, it's on t-shirts, it's everywhere. It paints this really romantic picture of, a marriage to your investments, till death do us part. But this quote, it's more of a marketing slogan than a hard and fast rule.
The reality is actually much, much colder. See, Buffett doesn't marry his stocks, he kind of dates them. And if the story changes, he dumps them without a second thought. Just look at the airlines. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, a forever investor would have gritted their teeth and held on. But Buffett? Nope. He sold everything, at a massive loss, by the way, because the fundamental reason for owning them had been vaporized overnight. His loyalty isn't to a stock ticker. His loyalty is to his capital. Period.
And that leads us to the next big myth, that he only buys cheap stocks. Now, early in his career, he did. He called it cigar butt investing. Finding a disgusting, discarded company on the ground with one last free puff of profit in it. But he realized that strategy doesn't scale. The real shift, the moment that made him a billionaire, was when he started buying wonderful companies at fair prices. Think about See's Candies back in '72 or Apple in 2016. Neither of those was cheap, but they were incredible businesses with unbelievable pricing power. The key lesson here is this. He learned to pay up for quality. And this idea of paying for quality, well, it totally changes how you build a portfolio. Which brings us to our next set of myths, how he manages risk and the industries he decides to play in. Any financial advisor you talk to will tell you to diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? Buffett's take is the exact opposite. He says, and I quote, "Diversification is protection against ignorance." He thinks it's for people who don't know what they're doing. I mean, think about it. If you truly understand a business and you think it's the best idea you've ever had, why would you put your money into your 20th best idea instead of just putting more into your number one?
And he absolutely means it. Just look at this. This is a breakdown of Berkshire's public stock portfolio. It is shockingly concentrated. Nearly half, almost 50% of his entire public stock portfolio is in one single company, Apple. A regular fund manager would be fired on the spot for being that reckless. But for Buffett, this is focus investing. When he finds what he thinks is the perfect opportunity, he doesn't just dip his toe in, he swings for the fences.
Now, that massive bet on Apple just completely shatters that other big myth, right? The one about Buffett being a tech hater. For decades, the critics called him a dinosaur. They said he missed Amazon, he missed Google, he missed the whole digital revolution. But that story it falls apart when you realize his biggest bet ever is on a technology company. So what gives? What changed?
It all comes down to a mental model he uses called the circle of competence. See, his rule was never avoid tech, his rule was avoid what I cannot predict. Back in the early 2000s, nobody knew if Yahoo or Google or Ask Jeeves was going to win. It was a pure gamble. But by 2016, Apple wasn't some speculative tech stock anymore. It had become a predictable, dominant consumer brand, as reliable as Coca-Cola. It had finally entered his circle of competence.
Okay, but even if you master all of that, even if you get the concentration and the competence thing right, you are still missing the most important piece of the puzzle. You're missing the secret sauce, the real engine behind the entire Berkshire machine. And it's a structural advantage that you and we just don't have. That advantage has a name. It's called insurance float. Let me explain it real simple. When you pay your car insurance premium to, say, Geico,
The company gets to hold on to your cash until you get in an accident and have to file a claim. Now imagine that, but with millions of customers. That massive pool of cash they're just sitting on, that's the float.
And this is where Buffett's genius really kicks in. He realized that if he owned a well-run insurance company, this float was basically a giant interest-free loan that he could invest for his own gain. But he gets even better than that. If Geico is run well and collects more in premiums than it pays out in claims, he's actually getting paid to borrow this money. It is a literal cheat code for finance. When you buy a share of Apple, you're using your own cash. When he buys Apple, he's using billions and billions of dollars of free leverage.
So this is the most crucial point to understand. You can't just copy his stock picks, because he is not playing the same game as you. Berkshire Hathaway isn't really a stock portfolio. It's a massive insurance company in disguise that uses its float to buy other businesses. That's the real engine.
Okay, so we've covered the financial mechanics, but honestly, knowing the math is the easy part. The hardest part, the part where most people fail, is mastering the psychology. And that brings us to Buffett's real superpower, his almost inhuman ability to do absolutely nothing.
Let's just rewind to 1999. It's the peak of the dot-com bubble. Everyone is getting rich overnight on tech stocks. But Buffett refused to buy a single one, saying he didn't understand the valuations. The media crucified him. This famous Barron's cover literally asked, "What's wrong, Warren?" He looked like a total fool. But he didn't cave to the pressure. He just sat there and he waited. And then the bubble burst. And while everyone else got completely wiped out, he was sitting there on a mountain of cash, ready to buy their broken companies for pennies on the dollar. That's not about intelligence. That is all about temper.
And when fear is at its absolute peak, he doesn't just buy stocks. He becomes a shark. During the 2008 crisis, companies like Goldman Sachs were on the brink of collapse. They were desperate, so they called Omaha. Buffett didn't just give them a loan. No, he extracted a pound of flesh. He demanded 10% annual dividends, guaranteed, plus warrants to buy their stock for dirt cheap later on. This was not passive value investing. This was using his leverage as the lender of last resort to dictate predatory, take it or leave it terms.
But even this master of temperament isn't a perfect machine. He's human, and his single biggest mistake, a mistake driven by pure, raw emotion, cost him an estimated $200 billion.
Ironically, his biggest mistake is the name on the door, Berkshire Hathaway. It was a dying textile mill. He didn't buy it because it was a great investment. He bought it out of pure ego. The CEO tried to cheat him on a deal by 12.5 cents a share, and Buffett got so angry that he bought control of the entire company just so he could have the satisfaction of firing the guy. He then spent the next 20 years pouring good money into a terrible business. That one emotional decision cost him what he estimates to be half his potential net worth. It's a critical lesson. Even for the master, emotions are very, very expensive. So how do you fight against those expensive emotions? He lives his life by what he calls an inner scorecard. And he asks this question to illustrate the point. Think about it. If you need the world's approval, the outer scorecard, you are destined to fail as an investor. You will buy high when everyone is cheering, and you will sell low when everyone is panicking. His entire success comes from judging himself by his own standards, even if it means looking like a complete idiot to the rest of the world in the short term.
So, we've stripped away the myths. We've seen the real machine. The goal here is not to perfectly imitate Warren Buffett. You can't. The goal is to adapt his core principles to your reality. So let's build a framework that you can actually use.
All right, here it is. Number 1, build your own float. For you, this means having a solid emergency fund and living below your means. This gives you cash so you're never forced to sell at the worst possible time. 2, define your circle of competence. You don't need to know about 500 companies. You just need to deeply, intimately understand 3 or 4 great ones. 3, adopt a punch card mentality. Imagine you only get 20 investment punches in your entire life. This forces incredible discipline and patience. 4 and 5 are tied together. Always know the difference between price and value, and always, always demand a margin of safety, a huge discount to what a company is actually worth. And finally, number 6, the foundation for all of it, operate from an inner scorecard. Tune out the noise and trust your own homework.
In the end, it all really just comes down to this. The entire financial world, the news, social media, everything. It is designed to make you panic, to make you trade, to make you act. But real, long-term wealth is built by those who have the temperament to refuse. It's built by patiently waiting for that one perfect pitch right in your sweet spot. So the final question isn't about what Buffett is buying next. The real question is, what's your pitch, and are you patient enough to wait for it?